Hey, welcome to Steph's world. The world according to Steph, the world of love and light. And, oh, I don't even have my brace on. Oh, I'm going to be in trouble. I don't know if you can see my arm and hand. This is what it looks like without the brace. I can't use this. I can barely move it with my finger because it does hurt terribly. I'll be right back. I must get my brace. I'm sorry. I must get it. Oh boy. Okay. Now I'm trying to get comfy again. I hope everybody is doing well. I hope you get a little look around my room a little bit. The pictures that I've hung up are actually photos that I took. And no, I'm not a photographer, but apparently I have a few more talents in life. Isn't that funny how as we progress in through life that, if we get the opportunity to do things, we learn that, oh my goodness, I have talents here and I have talents there. We should never, I hope we never restrict ourselves to our, one thing or even two things. We might have talents that just range in amazing numbers. And I know that's true. For me, I've seen it be true for my own children, and now for my grandchildren. So I'm really happy about that. And I hope that someday I will be able to spend more time with my grandchildren and, see all the wonderful things that they're doing with their lives. Really see it. Well, I have something interesting that I wanted to talk about today. And I'm going to call this Love and Light 9. I've attempted to make this video several times now. I really have. But I either went over my time limit or it wasn't right. It has to be right in my heart for it to work. And whether anybody watches it or not, that's beside the point. I need it to work for me. I want to talk about something called releasing our burdens. Now, that can mean a lot of things. It can mean releasing your burdens in life altogether. It can mean releasing your burdens today, whatever they might be. If you don't think people carry burdens in their hearts and souls, guess again. Guess again. Come on. It's all part of being human, isn't it? I think so. But I also know that we can release them. And there are ways of doing that. Now, do want to briefly talk about two things that have to do with this, have to do with another piece of the burden discussion that I feel is very, very important because sadly, when a person releases their burdens at the time of their passing from this life to whatever life is next for them. And I'm not going to get into religion. We're not a religion thing here, okay? So let's not do that. I honor and respect all holy books, but I am a spiritual woman. And by that, I don't mean I'm a religious woman. I am a spiritual woman. Big difference. And with the growth of metaphysics and that area in life, it makes a little more sense. Metaphysics is thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. It's just that we probably had different names for it, throughout the centuries. But anyway, I've done a lot of study in metaphysics. A lot. I went to a class, actually took a class. Now, burdens, I wonder what our dictionary would talk about with burdens, and then I'll tell you about the two areas that releasing them is going to result in passing to the next world. And I'll explain that when I get there. Okay, burdens, according to our... Oh, how do you like my dictionary? I do use the computer, believe it or not, because this thing is old. And I even looked up spiritual in here, and it had a totally different... I don't know. It just wasn't quite what I was looking for. I can tell you that right now. Okay, but let's get to burden. All right, here we go. Burden. All right, load. I like that. Load. Also, care, responsibility. 2, something oppressive. Encumbrance. Cargo. Also capacity for cargo. Let's see. Burdening, burdensome, load, oppress. Okay, so I think we got the idea, right? The best part of this that I liked was the oppressive, the load part. I really like that. Like we're really carrying a lot inside. And I can speak to that. Definitely. I can speak to it. First of all, I'm going to talk about my grandmother. She passed away in 2004. She was 103 years old. She was healthy in every way except that her body literally couldn't walk anymore. Her legs couldn't hold her up anymore. She wasn't big. She was really teeny tiny. But her legs just flat couldn't hold her. So she had to be in a wheelchair, and she used to use her legs to get around. And she lost her hearing. So I remember the last few times I went to see her, I had to write everything out. And that was the only way that we could communicate. It was something, though. I love my grandmothers. I love both of them. And both of them had burdens, big burdens, on their shoulders, shall we say, or within their hearts. And neither one of them could come forward and talk to anybody about them. They kept them. They went with them when they passed. That was the time. That was the way things were back then, you know? You didn't talk about that kind of stuff. You were too busy trying to support your family. It was a depression, you know? Life was so hard, it was unbelievable. We got it good compared to what they had it. Unbelievable. Okay, so now, my grandmother always said this. There were two things that she said. One, the day I don't get out of my bed is the day I'll be ready to die. And the second thing she said was, if any of my children die before me, which one already did, but that was many, many, many years ago, even before my father was born, she had, one of her children was born, stillborn. She had actually she had 8 children, and they buried them. They named them, they buried them. You know, he's registered, so he's in a burial site in the family plot. Anyway, and the weird part is they named my dad the same name as him, except the only difference was they gave him a different middle name. Yeah, that's the way they were back then. Okay, so anyway, the second thing was that if any of her children passed before her, that was it. She didn't want to live anymore. Now, I've had a child die. His birthday's in 2 days. I'll be crying. I'm sorry. I'm not over it. I will never be over it. I'm better, but I'm not ever going to be over it. He was 34 years old. He didn't even have a chance to start building a family. We were all waiting for a little Matt to bounce around and come out. And little Matt never came. But that's life. And we have to live it. But Grandma was 103. Or 102 when her sons passed. 2 of her sons passed in the same year. 2 of my uncles. One died from cancer, and he refused to get any help, which I'd be the same way. Forget it. There's no way I'm gonna go through all that stuff if that ever happened. And then the other one, he had been sick for a very long time. And my grandmother knew that, but so when the 2 boys passed, and they were old. Remember, Grandma was 103. They were in their 80s or close to 90s, okay? Okay, so they passed, and sure enough, 6 months later, it was Grandma's time. It was Grandma's time. I had just had my last cervical spine operation. It was only 2 weeks when she passed away, or when she was on her way out, shall we say. My father called me, and I lived close to my parents at the time. And my sister, who was okay at the time, the three of us, Dad and my sister and I, were going to go say goodbye to our grandmother. And I'd been very close to Grandma, and my dad knew that. So anyway, even with just having that neck operation, I decided to make the trip. But it wasn't easy, because the trip was about an hour and a half's drive to get there. So anyway, my grandmother's body was heaving up and down, just heaving. And, you know, it almost looked like at times like she was having seizures or something. And I was very upset about it. And I asked some nurses about this. I went, while my dad and my sister were still in there, I went out and talked to the nurses, and I said, why are you allowing my grandmother to do this? Why aren't you shooting in a bunch of morphine and just ending it? If you know she's passing, or probably already not even there, why are you doing this? And they said, well, we do it that way for everyone. And I thought, for everyone? Okay, so let me see here now. Animals, we have our pet dogs and our pet cats. And if we keep them their whole lives, 12, 13 years, whatever, right around there, and they get sick, and pretty soon, they're having trouble. They got real bad arthritis, and maybe their little legs can barely walk across throughout the house. So, after a while we decide, well, they've suffered enough, so let's take them to the vet. And the vet says, yeah, it's probably time to say your goodbyes. And the vet puts them to sleep. Well, I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused here. What's the difference? My grandmother was technically, they called her dead. When they called my dad up and said, you need to come out and say your goodbyes, they called her dead. So why was her body, a whole week, her body did that? A whole week. It took, we didn't bury her for another 3 weeks. It was unbelievable. Now, maybe some of you understand this, but I don't. I really don't. I think we treat our animals better than we treat our humans at times. I really do. And that's my feeling about it. And I don't know if churches or religion is a reason for this, or what the reason is, but something is, and it's not right. Not to me. Okay, so that's a burden. That's really, she had trouble letting go of her burdens. I think when people die like that, they're releasing their burdens of their bodies. But for some reason, the body still wants to live. So there's a burden here. One that I'm not going to begin to try to explain or understand. Not today. Okay, now, my mother has Alzheimer's. And one of my sisters who lives in the Chicagoland area, and my other sister who lives up there too, they took both of my parents a little over about a year and a half ago from the Kansas City, Missouri area up to the Chicago area. And my one sister thought that she could take care of my mother and found out, nope. My mother was much worse than she ever imagined. And they wouldn't bring in the help. And I never understood that. I felt like my mother might have been able to stay with my dad if they would have just let the proper people come in and work with her, but they didn't do it. And you know, when people, I don't live up there and I don't live near her, so there was no way that she was going to listen to me, and they were going to do it their way, and that was that. So my mother's in a nursing home right now. Now, they're treating her real good because my dad goes there every single day, and there's not a day that he misses. Not one day. And my father has done something to make my mother continue to live. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, but he has convinced her that she can get out of there if she learns to walk. Of course, she'll never walk because she's got serious bone trouble. There's no way my mother will ever walk. But he's got her convinced that she'll get out of there. And every time I speak with her on every Saturday, I hear her say that, well, you know, I'm still working on my walking, and it almost breaks my heart. It really does, because he's lying to her, and I understand, but he's lying to her. Anyway, her time will come. And I hope and I pray, and I'm going to say the word pray, that my mother releases her burden. And you know, I think Alzheimer's is a lot different, so I have a feeling there's not going to be any problem with that. She's already let go so much, it's amazing. This is a woman that has completely changed in a matter of about 10 years. Totally changed. Used to be angry at the world, and now as gentle as a kitten. Unbelievable. And wonderful. Wonderful. I love talking to her. I really do. One of the things that my mother always remembers, though, is her grandson, Matt, who passed away. Matt was special to our family, to the whole family. I mean, it was like a super shock. Everybody knew he was in the Army, but nobody really thought he was going to die. We just didn't know. It was just, I mean, who would ever have known? But at any rate, you know, Matt was quiet about what he did too. He didn't come forward with all that. We learned a lot of stuff after he was gone. Good stuff. I was very proud of my son, and I still am. Now, I forgot a few things. I will be right back. I'm in my special room, as I said before. Yeah, they're right here. Hear this? Yeah, I have my, here's my new cane. It's got butterflies on it. Yep. My girlfriend talked me into that one. We can do this. Good, see? That wasn't so hard. Now I feel very comfortable. Oh yeah, I can lay my head back. Okay, now, checking the time. We're halfway there. You know, okay, now releasing burdens. Now, I'm going to talk about me. I'm not going to talk about anybody else. I don't feel that I have the right to talk about anyone else. So I'm going to talk about me. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I grew up a tough way. I grew up with parents that wanted to make their children tough, okay? That was just the way it was. They were going to make their kids tough. Well, sadly, some of their children didn't quite turn out the way they were hoping. And they weren't so tough, shall we say. I'd call it more a little on the sick side, but I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about me. I was the oldest, and being the oldest of 6 children and a part Irish, part Native American family was quite an experience. Oh boy. Okay, so anyway, and I grew up in the 60s. I mean, I was a teenager in the early 60s, and I'm 60 years old. So, I got a history, a long one, and I did a lot of things. And I was a wild thing, believe me, a wild thing. I was, wow, put her away or put her down. I was just, look out, here comes Steph. Yep, never know what's going to go on with her around. Well, anyway, in reality, I wanted all the things that any normal human being wants. Love, honor, and respect. And in some ways, I wanted to be taken care of, too. Now, that's kind of a sad thing, okay? But yet, there's another angle to that, and I'm going to get into that. Okay, in my early years, I didn't make good choices on men, okay? Let's try to put it that way. The father of 2 of my children, I did everything in my power to make that a go, but it didn't go, all right? I still stay in contact with them because we have a child left, and we have 3 granddaughters, so you just don't lose contact with the partner that helped create your children. But anyway, I had a lot of burdens. I really did. I was just chocked full of them. And about 21 years ago, somewhere around there, when I was 18, one of my marriages, my first husband broke several vertebrae in my neck. Now, back then, they didn't do much for you. At least they didn't do much for me. And I lived in the Chicago area. You know, you would have thought that the doctors would have been more aggressive, but they weren't. So I learned, I guess, I don't know what they did. They didn't grow back right, I know that, but I lived with a lot of pain and a lot of difficulties as a result of those. Okay, now, then when I was 40 years old, I was a wild thing. And, you know, even though I'd gone to college and I was raising my kids and I was I was doing good. I really was. I mean, life was a celebration, right? Yeah. At least I thought it was. And one night, Labor Day weekend, I just went nuts. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and my boyfriend was already in bed. And I decided I wasn't done with my night, so I came on home later, too. And during the night outside, I went, yeah, down. It broke my lower back. Wow. Now, I'm going to be honest, that was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me. It changed my life. It really did. It woke me up. It really woke me up. I went through a very difficult time right after that. Very difficult. I know that my daughter also suffered through that with me. She didn't understand why her mother was acting the way I was acting. She didn't understand any of it. She was still a very young teenager. So anyway, it was time for change. Well, it just so happens that it seems like in my life, when I need help, it comes. It comes. The help shows up. You know, I was going to talk about that one time, about how, you know, our needs are, seems like our needs are always provided for. My needs have always been, and I've lived in a car with my kids. But I still pulled out that one okay, pretty good in fact. Then I got an education, made good money for my babies, and, well, I didn't make good money right at first, but it came, you know. Yeah, I had a pretty good job. But anyway, but life changed when I broke my lower back, and I broke it just below the spinal cord. So I wasn't paralyzed, but I was close, really close. And not only that, well, I was never the same. I can tell you that right now. No more jumping around, happy little Steph. I mean, even with the back pain that I had in the upper part of my body, I couldn't, this was totally different. This was stuff I couldn't deal with. Not without help. Well, anyway, I'm trying not to get into a long, big thing about this, but suffice it to say, that changed my life. And I'm going to give you the lowdown. 20 years later, 9 levels fused in my spine. The lower one at the very bottom, it's failing. And the spinal cord is at least halfway, maybe more, totally compressed. They don't know why I'm walking, frankly. They haven't figured that one out. Okay, then a bunch of other little things happened to me, just weird things. It seemed like one operation after another. And then 6.5 years ago, I had a 6.8 millimeter brain aneurysm, left quadrant of my head. Yeah, now that did some damage. Oh, and I had a stroke in my last spinal operation. They did it so high up, I can almost feel the metal right in here. They did it so high up that they warned me that I might have a stroke. And sure enough, I had a stroke. Yep, I did. I didn't even know about it. My family told me. The ones that came to visit, they were crying. I didn't even know it. But I worked on my face. I really did. I exercised. I did as much as I could not to stay in a stroke way. I wasn't going to be like that. And it was mild, thank God. Well, then they did an operation 2 weeks later to try to open up the airways in my swallowing esophagus part, the whole esophagus of my throat, because they made it so teeny tiny. I mean, they're just, with all the metal in there, there wasn't any room. Well, that didn't work. Sorry, didn't work. So, okay, but anyway, I had that brain aneurysm. And that was a biggie. And so I lived. It ruptured, and I lived. So apparently, I'm supposed to be here talking to you right now. Now, getting back to letting go of our burdens, man, did I have some burdens. I had anger. I had stuff stacked up in my heart and soul, just stacked up, you know, all kinds of stuff. Pulled this drawer open and I had a whole bunch of this, and pulled this drawer open and I had a whole bunch of this. And, I mean, it was full of stuff, okay? And, so anyway, the point is that I needed help to let go of that stuff. It was time. And I got it. I got it. And I went, you know, I got help from some very special women. Wow. They were wow time. And one of them told me this: I can't help you unless you're ready to let go of everything you ever knew and start fresh. And I thought, what? What? Now that was about, I don't know, 15 years ago. Yeah. And I told her, I was desperate, and I said, okay. I had already been getting help, and I thought I'd come a long way. No, I hadn't come very far at all. You know, this woman helped me so much that I don't feel bad about anything. Nothing. Talk about releasing burdens. I released. I let go. And there's a process for doing that. Now, I don't have time to get into it today, but what I'm trying to give you is, for any of you that are out there that have any kind of burdens loading you down, there's hope. There really is. There's big time hope. And it's a tough deal to have to go through too. It's not easy. So don't think for 1 minute it is. But you can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Okay, now I wanted to read just a couple of things and then I'm done. All right? For today. Balance. I wrote this. Find the balance of my life or make a balance I've never had. Not bad, huh? No, I don't take credit for what I write or for what I think. Somebody else already thought of it. Believe me. None of what we say is original. I don't believe that. I'm sorry. There's been too many generations of people. Surely someone else has said the same exact thing at some time in life. That's how I look at it. So I like that about balance. And balance is a very, very, very important thing to me. Okay, now, let's see if we got a few more in this book. I've got a lot in here, but I don't want to focus on, I want to make this, I like this one too. I must treat myself as I would a gentle creature of my Creator, with tenderness, patience, compassion, wonder, and love. Something I wrote about myself that was important to me. And it still works. I still feel that way. So, now I got a bunch of stuff in this one. But, like I said, I don't want to take up too much time. Oh, this is by Thomas Merton. No man is an island. The beginning of love is to let those we love be perfectly themselves, and not to twist them to fit our own image. Otherwise, we love only the reflection of ourselves we find in them. I really like that. I got a bunch more stuff, but it's getting late, so I'm going to have to wind this up. I love all of you. This is done in love and light. This will be operated on soon, I promise. I don't want it, but it has to be done. I love y'all. I'll talk to you soon.